All right. Welcome, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. We're really excited to have you here for today's webinar all about Jane payments. I was thinking this morning, I always like to think about what I'm going to say in the beginning of the webinar beforehand. I often forget and don't really do anything good. But today I was thinking that generally this time of year is when we've done our Allied conference every year. And we always do a Jane payment session. So this is right on time, right when we would normally be doing this session. Instead of doing the Allied this year, we just did so many sessions all year. So hopefully people have had a chance to attend some of our sessions. So I'm just going to do a screen share and walk you through some webinar housekeeping before we jump into our content. So I just wanted to remind everyone to turn your chat to everyone down in the bottom of your screen. It defaults to hosts and panelists. If you can flip it to everyone, then we'd love for you to pop into the chat and say hi. Let us know where you're from, what your discipline is. I'd also love to know if you've attended any of our other webinars this year, any of our other sessions. So let us know, say hi. Jane team, you can pop in there and say hi as well. We've got quite a few members of the Jane team here today to help out as well, answering questions in the chat and the Q&A. And you can use both the chat and Q&A throughout the session. That's totally fine. If you have any specific questions you'd like answered, the Q&A is really great for that because it's just easy for us to find them. But the chat is also great. You can chat back and forth with anyone there. Our team is monitoring, so they will respond to you. So both work, no problems there. And then, as always, this session will be recorded and we'll be sending out the recording either later today or tomorrow. So if you miss anything, if you want to watch it again, if you want to share with anyone in your office, you can. So I'm going to stop sharing. Lots of hellos. Hello, everybody. I have obviously been to nearly every webinar we've had this year, so hopefully I've seen some of you in some of those sessions. And I've given us a couple minutes. We have a good amount of attendees. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Rach and Kevin to tell you all about Jane Payments. Take it away.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We're here to learn how to save time and money with Jane Payments. Who's excited? Well, I guess that doesn't really work on a webinar, but Rachel is. Perfect. I already mentioned our names, but my name's Kevin. I'm the Senior Product Manager here at Jane. I do all the payment stuff, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Rachel. Hi, everyone. I'm the payments team captain at Jane, so working on the support side of things. So happy to have you all here today.
Awesome. Eileen, thank you so much for expressing your excitement in the chat as well. Like I mentioned, we're here to learn how to save time and money with Jane Payments. This session is going to be focused more on, I guess, more for users that aren't using Jane Payments yet. So if you are already using Jane Payments, you might find this valuable. You might learn about a couple features that you don't quite know about. But if you are looking for maybe support around your Jane Payments account, we do have our support team ready on the phones, by email, or by chat. Great. Let's just kick it off. Rachel, what are we going to learn about today?
All right, so today we're going to talk about the following things that you can see here. So we'll go through the overview of Jane Payments, collecting credit cards and AR or accounts receivable, the client experience, and then finally comparing rates and fees. So jumping right in, just with an overview of Jane Payments to start, what even is Jane Payments? Well, Jane Payments is our complete payment solution that is built right into Jane. But wait, why is that even important to you? Well, it means that payments are taken and recorded directly in Jane. This means it eliminates the need for manual entry and the billing errors that can come along with that. So online payments are one half of Jane Payments and are super helpful for streamlining a practice's checkout flow and then boosting revenue with things like auto recurring memberships, online gift cards, and pay balance emails. But then the other half of Jane Payments is the Jane Payments terminal. So if your clinic or your practitioners, rely on tips as part of their income, or if you see a bit of an older population that are nervous about leaving their card on file, then Jane Payments is likely a really great solution for your clinic. But Jane Payments offers various options that work for clinics of all shapes and sizes. So you can use one, the other, or both. It's up to you. So here are all the cool things that you can do with Jane Payments. With online payments, you can securely collect and keep cards on file, take deposits during the online booking process, send payment requests via email and text message, sell auto recurring memberships, and then collect credit cards through intake forms. Then with the terminal, you can tap, swipe, or insert cards, optionally prompt for tips, and then save cards on file. So with saving the cards on file, this allows you to save it safely and securely, which means it's encrypted and you're not writing it down, so you're PCI compliant. Kevin will chat a little bit more about this. Over to you, Kevin.
PCI compliance, it's so fun. PCI stands for the payment card industry. And it's a set of security protocols that any payment processor has to follow. We are proud to say that we are PCI compliant, and we don't actually charge for that. We do see a lot of other payment solutions charge either a monthly or quarterly fee for this. We just believe that it's up to us to make a secure payments product. I've also seen such things as some clinics be charged a PCI compliance fee per month, as well as a PCI non-compliance fee on the exact same statement. With Jane, it's all included. A couple other businessy things about payments that you should probably know. All of your reporting is right within Jane in real time. So there's no long, confusing monthly statement at the end of the month. It's all in Jane along with all of your other data. All of the support is also provided by the Jane team. So the same people that are going to help you with scheduling or charting or any sort of invoicing questions, they can also help you with your payments questions. We are pretty happy with our late transfer, also known as a cutoff time. I know with some payments providers, your day's transactions might be split into two. They get some transactions deposited in one batch and some transactions deposited in another. Our transfer time is pretty much midnight Eastern time, or 9 o'clock for us here on the West Coast. It does take just 2 business days for your payouts to arrive in your bank account, and they are charged with our transparent, all-inclusive rate. So we are, again, just like our no PCI compliance fees, we are very happy to say that there are no hidden fees, no surprises with Jane Payments. The one rate we tell you is what you'll pay. Then we can head to the next slide. Tell us more about collecting credit cards, Rach.
Okay, let's jump in. So why should you even keep cards on file? Well, to be honest, it's kind of just there to make your lives easier. This means you can spend more time with your clients and less time chasing payments. So it'll help you prevent no-shows, enforce your late cancellation policy, collect co-pays and deductibles, sell products when clients call or email in, and just generally provide a better patient or client experience. Let's kind of dive into those a little bit more. So the different ways to collect cards on file, we have using online booking policies, through intake forms, using the pay balance email or text, and then finally through the Jane Payments terminal. So talking about the online booking policies where you can set it and forget it, we've heard from clinics that this significantly reduces the amount of no-shows that we're seeing. They're seeing, sorry. The options are flexible where you can require full payment, a deposit amount, or just saving the card on file. So you can do what works best for your clinic. Next, we have intake forms. So credit cards on intake forms offers the ability for the customer to, or the patient, sorry, to have a smooth all-in-one experience where they're entering their information just one time. This can be set up as required or optional for your patients. And then we also have the pay balance option. So you can click to send prompts to your patients within just 2 clicks from the patient profile. So using the text as an option, as an example right here, you'll see from the main client profile that there is a billing notices section where you can do either an email or a text. So as you can see here, I'm going to go ahead and click the text reminder. And this will pop up on the administrative side where you can include a custom note to your patient, which is really nice. You can, reference anything that's been going on with them if you'd like to. And then this is what would appear on the client's perspective. So on the left here, you can see that they would receive a text message and just a link that they can click on to start processing the payment. And then on the right-hand side here, you can see that they can quite literally just click on Apple Pay to process their payment or enter in the card information. Pretty snazzy, if I do say so myself. Over to you, Kevin.
Awesome. And Rachel mentioned Apple Pay there. Jane Payments also supports Google Pay. And if they already have a card on file, they'll even see an option for that. So they can pay that invoice in just a click or two. Click, tap, however they want to. On to collecting that accounts receivable. How do you do it with Jane Payments? Well, it's pretty simple because you probably already have a card on file, right? So Rachel, click, you're all set. With all the different features that Rachel just mentioned, Jane Payments makes it easy. If you're using our online booking policies, you've maybe already taken payment for that treatment, or you've already collected that card on file. If you're choosing to send a pay balance email or text, it just takes a click or two in Jane, and you can send that reminder right to your patients. If you're collecting card information through an intake form, you're going to have that card on file. At the end of your session, you can just ask that patient, hey, do you want that charge to the card on file? Then they can walk out the door. We like Jane Payments, well, because we are biased, because we work for Jane, but also we think that it delivers an incredible client experience. That's going to be just our next little segment here. And I think it's best summed up by Dr. Nick Meyer, who said he likes to take the transaction out of the treatment. A quote from him is, the very last thing going through the patient's brain is payment and money, which isn't great. Rather, their last interaction be about healing and the recommendations he's given them. So taking that transaction out of the treatment, just letting them finish that massage, finish that chiropractic adjustment, and they can walk out the door, and that's the last thing that they remember. I think that's going to lead to happy customers, happy clients, and hopefully they come back to see you again. I know Rachel has a couple more stories just on the client experience as well.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. I just have two brief stories to share with you. Don't worry, I won't keep you for too long. But last month I went to the dentist. They submitted my insurance and I left. Great. I think it's all, dealt with. Then a week or two later, I get an email from them saying I have $4.30 balance owing, which my insurance didn't cover, which is fine. Anyway, they emailed me asking me to call in and give them my credit card information. And then, as you do, you just forget about those things. And another week goes by, they call me, I'm not doing something, and then I forget about it again. And then they email me again. So I'm feeling a little bit crappy at that point. I haven't paid and I keep forgetting, but also kind of annoyed that we're having this payment dance back and forth. But, I know from the clinic side of things, I'm sure it's frustrating for their administrative staff to have to spend time chasing me. And then I'm sure many other patients. But anyway, I eventually went in and paid for my appointment when I was in the area. But I think just, as a patient, it didn't really feel like a great experience. And, in this kind of day and age of technology, I've come really used to having online payments and not really needing to do that, back and forth. And I just, the following week or so, I went and saw my counselor, and she also uses Jane and also uses Jane Payments. And then I leave my session with her and we're just talking about booking my next session. And we're kind of just wrapping up our chat. And, then later on that day, I receive a receipt to my email and I've made payment. No follow-up necessary. I really love that seamless experience. And we're really just focusing on the session itself and it's not feeling so transactional. And I think just so interesting to see those, two flip sides. And it really resonated with me, how much I really appreciated just receiving the receipt to my email at the end of the day. Thanks for listening to my stories. I hope they weren't too long, but now we're going to head over to the world of rates and fees.
Rates and fees, so it's time for math. I like to prep everyone, so please stay with us. I'm going to make this as simple as possible. But in reality, payment processing fees can be pretty complex. It's not uncommon to have a 6, 7, even a 10-page long monthly statement with a whole laundry list of different fees. Like I said at the top of this, Jane Payments does things a little bit differently. We just have one transparent fee per transaction. So we go to the next slide. Every day, Rachel and I hear numbers such as, I pay 0.2% for credit card processing. I pay 1.25%, and just all different kinds of numbers. I've been doing this for a lot of years at Jane, as well as even before I worked at Jane, and I've never actually experienced a practitioner that actually knows how much they're paying per month. These numbers you see on the screen, 0.2, 1.25%, they might be one of the many fees that you're paying. When you see something like 0.2%, that might be part of an interchange plus pricing model. A 1.25% price might be a discount fee model. I don't like that name, the discount fee model, because it's really confusing. Yeah, so I guess with these rates, what it's really important to know is all of payment processing is based on what we call the interchange rates. These are set by Visa and MasterCard, and they're going to be the same for any different payments provider. So if you think you're getting a great rate like 0.2% or even something as low as 1.25%, you might be, but there's going to be additional fees there. As our colleague Michelle said, there's no such thing as a free lunch in the payment processing world because everyone is paying the same costs. So talked a lot about numbers, showed you some of these rates. How should you actually calculate your payment processing rates? Well, we can use a pretty simple calculation, unless of course you're in Canada, because we do things a bit differently up here, up north. What you should do is you should take the amount that you processed, and just divide it by the amount of fees you paid. So don't worry too much about kind of what a payment salesperson has said you're paying. This is the calculation you want to do. This is going to give you what's called your effective rate. Take the amount processed divided the amount of fees you've paid. So to put some numbers to it, if we go to the next slide, you processed $10,000 in credit cards and you paid $350 in fees, that means you're paying 3.5%. Like I mentioned at the start of this little segment, maybe you think you're paying 1.25%, or maybe something a little bit different. This is the way you should do it. You want to know that effective rate. After all the fees that are being charged are tallied up, what are you actually paying? Sherry, Canadian here. We have a little bit different way to do it. It just involves a little bit more math. We can do it. So here in Canada, you want to take the amount you processed on credit cards only. Here in Canada, we have a funny debit system called the Interac system. You want to remove all of that Interac card processing volume from your calculation. Because if you are here in Canada, you know that we, as in Jane, as well as every other payments provider, charges Interac cards a little bit differently. Usually just a transaction fee. I know some companies have recently announced that they are changing how they're charging Interac cards, but Jane has no plans in the near future to do that. So in Canada, you just want to take the amount of credit cards you're processing and divide it by the amount of fees you've paid. Right, so I think we can go to the next slide. So I think I've already said this a couple of times, but your rate, what you think you're paying, is just one of the many fees that you might be charged. Everyone is on the same playing field here. You can't really get a deal in the payment processing world, unfortunately. Everyone has the same costs. So if you think you're paying a rate that's maybe too good to be true, it probably is. So how much does Jane actually charge here in Canada on the terminal? It's just 2.65% per transaction and 2.75% for online transactions. If you are using an Interac debit card on the terminal, it is just 10 cents per transaction. Over in the US, a little bit different, 2.6% plus 10 cents on the terminal and 2.85% plus a quarter online. There aren't Interac cards in the US, so there's no pricing for that. Of course, we've given you a lot of information here. We've told you all the features that Jane has. We showed you how you can improve the client experience and given you a little how-to on how to calculate your rates. We're also happy to help do that for you. If you want to email us at support@jane.app, or you can use the Need Help menu within your Jane account. We can also help you through your rates. I also encourage you to head to jane.app/payments. You can take our payment personality quiz. Find out a little bit more about the options that are available to you and what's going to fit your specific clinic. I think that's about it for our scheduled content. Usually there's a lot of questions, so let's get to some of them. I know some have been added in the chat, some are in the Q&A section. So what do we have here? Yes. I see, Paula, you've asked, how can clients tip if a card is on file? Well, right now, that's, to be honest, that's a little tough. We don't quite have that feature yet, but it is something, if you want to have a bit of an awkward conversation with your client, it can be done. But I think if you are accepting tips, the terminal is probably the best option. With the Jane Payments terminal, you can set different percentages that it can ask. Also, you can enter a custom amount for a tip on it. That's seamlessly logged in Jane.
Kevin, I'm going to read out some from the chat to you, if that's okay.
Yeah, let's go for it.
What is the cost of an external Jane Payment terminal for mobile use or trade showed usage for swiping? So a Jane Payments terminal.
And that was for specifically for mobile.
Yes.
Yeah. So the Jane Payments terminal, the one we currently offer, it does require Wi-Fi. So although it can be used for things like trade shows, I wouldn't really suggest that that be its primary use. If the cost of them is, in the US, they're $239. In Canada here, $279. But again, I wouldn't suggest maybe that they be used at trade shows. It's more for an in-office setup, I would say.
We have another one. Candice, you asked, will you be discussing insurance at all? We don't typically chat about insurance in our payment sessions, but I will just call out that with Jane Payments, you can accept insurance payments with Jane Payments. Please feel free to reach out to our support team and we can definitely dive more into that. Kevin, another one from Michael. Are debit cards entered the same way credit cards are entered? Are postal codes always required?
Yeah. So on the terminal, no, because that's not really how terminals work. But online, yes, debit cards do require the postal code. When you're using and Michael, I don't know if you're in Canada or the US. Here in Canada, our debit cards actually work kind of like credit cards. They use the credit card networks for payments. So yes, you would need a postal code. It is just an extra layer of, I'm going to say, security, as well as helps improve the acceptance of that card.
Fabulous. Okay, we have more questions rolling in, so I'm just going to keep throwing them over to you here, Kevin. Okay. How long does it take the terminal to be sent to us once ordered? And can we both use online and terminal system to collect payments, or is it one or the other?
Yeah, terminals, they can take just generally a couple days. Here in Canada, they are all shipped from Ontario. So the further away from Ontario, the longer it takes. But I'd say, a day or two to about a week. Down in the US, they are shipped from a couple different places. So it's usually a little bit faster. And I also see, can you use both the online and terminal system to collect payments? Yes, of course. We love the flexibility that Jane Payments has. So you can use just online payments, just the terminal, or use them both in tandem.
Okay, another one, Kevin. Is the Jane payment fee inclusive of the Visa and MasterCard costs?
You bet. Yes. What you see is what you get. Those rates I mentioned, 2.65% or 2.6% plus 10 cents in the US. That is inclusive of all the Visa, MasterCard, interchange, Visa assessments, all that stuff.
Fabulous. Couple more here before we start to wrap up. From Michael, will costs be going down next year in Canada with reduced interchange rates noted from the finance minister?
Yeah, so that's a fantastic question, Michael. In short, we don't quite know because I know it has been announced that is scheduled to take place in the fall, probably October, November of 2024. We don't actually have any more information on that, what that actually looks like. I will note that this has actually been done before, but a lot of the savings were mostly just passed on to the big businesses like grocery stores and things like that. So we are looking for more information on that, and we will, of course, be looking to see what we can do with our rates about that. I wish I had more information to share about that now.
Okay, great. Does the terminal accept Amex and HSA cards?
Yes and yes. Easy answers. I love it.
Any cards kept on file and being processed is considered to be an online transaction, so higher rates applies. Yes. I feel like question and statement. You are correct, Brittany. We have one from Laurie. Do you offer payment processing preferential rates for high volume practices?
Yeah, Laurie, we'd love to chat. Send a question into our support team. It might even just be Rachel or myself picking that up as well.
Okay, great. I think we're almost through them here. M. Palmer, I did just want to answer your question. Is Jane compatible with provincial health billing? Yes, we are, but I would encourage you to reach out to our support team so we can chat more in depth about those insurance options. A couple more here. Oh, I think that just came through again. And then I did see one about monthly fees. How much per month for 3 providers, Lena? I'm not sure if you're referring to the subscription or for payments. If it's payments, you're just paying the transaction fee on each transaction. In terms of pricing for the subscription, you can head over to jane.app on our pricing page. You can pop in the amount of practitioners that you have, and it'll populate with a price that you'll pay monthly. One more from
see
Richard.
one more. Yeah, I see Richard's there.
To clarify, in Canada, only credit cards and no Visa debit or MasterCard debit on terminal or online, correct?
So Richard, in Canada, with our debit system, all debit, I'm going to say most debit cards are what we call co-branded. So they have both a Visa or a MasterCard, as well as the Interac logo on them. So you can think of these as like card networks. So when you're using that card on a terminal, it's going to use the Interac network to process that transaction. When you're using it online, it's going to use the Visa or MasterCard network to process that transaction. But no matter kind of the network it's going through, it's pulling from that person's bank account rather than a line of credit like a credit card. So that is in short, yes, Visa debit or MasterCard debit MasterCards work both online and on the terminal, just in slightly different ways. Leslie asks, can we take ACH or check payments? Not at this time, no.
Okay, I think we're done on questions here. I don't know if anyone has any last minute burning questions they'd love to add into the chat before we wrap up.
All right, well, that was so great, Rach and Kevin. Thank you for taking everyone through all of that. As Kevin and Rachel both said, if you have any other questions, you can obviously contact our support team at any time via phone or email or chat. Hopefully someone from the Jane team can put some of those details down into the chat. As well as please do join us in our community group. Hopefully Jack or Caitlin's already on it. That's so great. So please join us there as well. It's a great place to chat with other people using Jane, other practitioners, ask for questions about anything related to Jane or running your business. We're really excited to have you join us there. And so as I said earlier, this session has been recorded and we will be sending it out to you later today or early tomorrow morning. So yeah, I think with that, we'll say thank you to Kevin and Rach and to everyone else from the Jane team for helping out in the chat. And we hopefully see you again at another webinar soon. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.